Hi, my name is Bredekamp. I'm a periodontist practicing out of Durban, and today we're going to show you a brief video on the placement of the Megagen Anyridge implant system. Okay, so today's site is a 4-5 site that we're going to replace. There was a recent extraction done, which you'll see on the periapical x-ray. And we're going to start with our crestal incision, which we make just palatal or lingual of the midline. And it's a full thickness flap that we're doing, and then sulcular incisions along the adjacent teeth. Once we've done the incisions, we start reflecting from the line angles, and we go down to bone and just reflect gently, easily and distally. Once we've done that, we take tissue holding forceps, we grab the tissue with it, and we gently reflect, not applying force. Always holding the tissue and then reflecting. We reflect so that we can see the buccal shelf of the ridge, and then we reflect till we see the lingual. Good visibility is of critical importance. Once we've done that, I take a boozer bone scraper and I usually just clean the soft tissue tags off the crestal tissue just to give me better visibility of the ridge. Once we've done that, we're going to commence our drilling protocol. So the first drill we use is our lance drill, and the purpose of this drill is just to perforate the cortical plate. The next drills we use are the pilot drills. As you can see, we start off with the 7mm. The beauty of the Megagen drills, which some others also have, is these stoppers. When we start drilling, we will go in with a pump action, and that is so we clear the bone that's coming off there, and we're not generating too much heat. So in a pump action, we go up and down till we get to the depth of the drill. Now I have determined beforehand from my cone beam and my periapical planning what the length of implant will be. So I can up and down till I get to the depth. Once we reach the depth, we will then take our paralleling pin, the lowest being 7 mils, then 10 mils, then 13 millimeters. As we can see from the radiographic picture, we still have good distance from the mental foramen here. So we go on to our next drill, which is the 8.5 drill, or the drill for the 8.5 implant, which you can see with a number 8 at the end of the shaft, on the shaft of the drill. This bone is type 1 bone, very hard, so critical to go with the pump action. So we get to the depth. Okay, so my plan is to place an 8.5 length, but with these type of implants, you want to place them subcrestally. So we will actually drill beyond the length we want to, even though these drills do take that into account. So I'm going to use the 10mm drill, and we use our next in the sequence of drills, which is actually the 2.8 drill. And once again, this drill in the Megagen kit also comes with the stoppers. So it's not just the pilot drill, which the other systems that have stoppers do, they even go up to the core drill. So then we go to our core drill, which is a 3.3 drill. So this correlates with the size of the implant we're going to place. Always still ensuring that my water is hitting the drill and cooling the drill. See the bone bits that come out of the drill? That's why the pump action. So now we move to our profile drill, and we're going to place a 4.5 diameter implant. So we go with the profile drill first at the reduced speed, and we go now the full length of the profile drill is 8mm. Okay, so we're taking the 4 profile drill because we're going to place a 4 by 8.5. So you can see this implant's got an enhanced surface because it has that denimish grey color to it. And now we're going to set our speed to the placement, 45 torque and 30 RPMs to place the implant in. But it may stop too soon, in which case we will then reverse it out and prepare a little bit more. So that's torqued out. The torque wrench with the hand wrench, and we're going to torque it down with this, just assessing how tight it is. But we mustn't feel too much pressure. It's already at 45 and it's not sink. I want it to be 2 millimeters below. I'm going to reverse the implant out completely, and this is all fine to do. Okay, we'll put it back in the carrier, trying not to touch the sides, and remove that. So what I now do is I will go one drill up from the 3.3, which was the core drill, which is the 3.8 drill, as you can see. So 10 millimeters is the bottom of that broad band, most apical. So I'm going to drill just before that. Lots of irrigation, pumping action. And if you're not sure, you can take the drill out. We put it in the site, take a periapical. And the nice thing with these drills is you can actually see the markings by notches on the drill. So we've got our 3.8 drill again. I'm going to take my profile drill again, making sure to choose the right one. And now we will try and seat our implant again. There's the implant. And now we can see that implant sinking below the crest of the bone. And it bottoms out, as you can hear at the torque, but you can already see it's subcrestal. Turn it in a little bit more. So now I can go with my torque wrench and I turn it in. Now you'll feel it starts biting tighter. Remember, bone is a living tissue and it needs to stretch, so we will reverse it a little bit because we don't want too much pressure on the bone, otherwise we get necrosis. So a few turns to reverse and then we go in again. But you'll see, even if I do this, I'm not sacrificing my primary stability. I will still end up with quite high primary stability. Don't overturn it though, because then you will struggle to get this thing to unscrew, and that's usually when you strip the stuff. Although with a Megagen, it's quite resistant to that. So we turn it in, so the flat surface buckle. I've got over 45 newtons of insertion torque arm. I will take the implant out. Now we take an x-ray. So there's the crest of the bone. The implant is 2 mils below. There is the mental foramen, and we've got at least a 3 millimeter safety zone. These are called pathfinders. Screw them in. I can see my distances from the teeth, so we can see we've got enough for primary prosthetic space. We still have 3 millimeters. Now then, the ISQ, which we mentioned earlier. Before you insert the smart peg with your sterile water that you just rinse out the inner well of the implant, and you can see it's 78, 79. So now we've got to choose our healing abutment. Here we're using a 5 diameter and a height of 4 millimeters. So that's the healing abutment. We've put a little bit of chlorhexidine gel on there, an allogel. I first just finger tighten to feel if it seats properly. On the x-ray you can see that's the healing abutment. Notice how there's a gap between the healing abutment and the bone, and that there must be no space between the implant surface top here of the implant and the healing abutment. Otherwise it's not seated properly. With finger pressure, tie and turn it till it stops. Once I've done that, I take my torque wrench, using it on the mobile arm, and I torque it to about 35 Newton centimeters. Spring loaded with the arm. And we're going to do a Palachi. I can't get this opposed as nicely there because the tissue's in the way. So we're just going to mobilize this tissue. In line with the mesial end of the healing abutment, we make a 2 millimeter deep incision, and then we go across for the diameter of the healing abutment. And that allows me to mobilize that piece of tissue distally and a bit tissue easily. And then we use our 6-0 non-resorb monofilament sutures because we're wanting to reduce the inflammation and we don't want to strangulate the tissue. So we go through the first thing, always grabbing in the middle of the shaft of the needle, not at the swage or at the tip. Go through the one part of the tissue first, the buccal part of the flap. Don't try and go through all the way. Then engage the second part. And these sutures can't be under high tension, they're passive, or they will snap, which is another reason why we use them. We don't want too much tension on the tissue. The only time I use a braided suture here is if it's a patient with bleeding disorders and I need to have more compression on the site. But these are not dissolving, so 10 days later we need to remove the sutures. Wipe it down the Abutment solution over the top to make sure you clean it nicely. And irrigate the area. The important thing I want to show you is, you see how nice and passive that is? See how the widest part of the stud is below the margin of the tissue. It's not standing above the margin of the tissue. That is actually critical when you're doing these, because otherwise you're not going to be able to get the right emergence profile for this situation.